I know you're friends with Fani Willis in the neighboring county who's impaneled the grand jury to consider all of this evidence. But yourself, if this had happened in your county, and for example, this phone call that we just heard with Donald Trump speaking earlier than we realized in Georgia on tape, would it be striking to you that the officials in the Secretary of State's office decided that they had to tape their phone calls with the president even before the president called the Secretary of State?
Well, I think it's interesting that they did, because now there is that tape out there that could be used possibly as evidence in either the prosecutor's case in chief, her primary case, or it could be used as supporting evidence to establish some other crimes. And I think in answering that question, the key thing is whether that call was received in Fulton County or whether it was received in a neighboring county. Every prosecutor has to prove jurisdiction, has to prove venue. And so that'll be the key question as to how the information surrounding that call would be used by the Fulton DA.
I know people watching this hearing today were shocked by what happened to Shaye Moss and her mother. Election workers in Fulton County doing their job, attacked publicly by Rudy Giuliani, attacked by Donald Trump, and then their lives being completely taken away from them by the kind of Trump mob in Georgia. What should prosecutors be looking at in Georgia in relation to that behavior?
So again, as I was watching the testimony, that was some of the most heartbreaking testimony that I had heard. And obviously this is a very serious case where lives have been lost. And it really brings home how personal this all is for so many that lived through it. From a prosecutor lens, one of the things that I think Ms. Willis and her team would be looking at as to whether what has been described or what she can find through the grand jury process would rise to the level of a terroristic threats charge. Again, it has to be corroborated. It has to involve threats of violence and with the intent to terrorize somebody. There are even provisions in the law that allow for terroristic threats that are communicated either through tweets or some sort of computer means to be considered as well. So she needs to look and see whether there's sufficient evidence to hold the president accountable in the first incident, former president accountable in the first instance, or whether she thinks it's more prudent to be able to bring that information in to tell the whole story as part of a larger RICO charge. And we've talked about how putting the various potential crimes together, whether it's the forgeries or the alleged forgeries from the fake electors, whether it's influencing witnesses, whether it's false swearing, in terms of, again, making false statements to public officials. All of this could be part of possibly a very strong RICO case, and that's a strategic decision that she and her team will have to make.
Let's listen to how Shaye Moss described these threats.
Yes, a lot of threats, wishing death upon me, telling me that I'll be in jail with my mother, and saying things like, "Be glad it's 2020 and not 1920.
Were a lot of these threats and vile comments racist in nature?
A lot of them were racist. A lot of them were just hateful. But yes, sir.
Should the FBI and federal prosecutors be investigating those death threats?
I think that's something that needs to be considered. Again, I've been a public servant for 24 years. My father was a public servant. He served as a Tuskegee Airman. To see people who put their lives on the line now to be able to serve the public and then get treated in that way is very disturbing, and certainly hope that something can be done.